Whoa. Streamlabs, why can I not see anything? Uh, hello? Hello? I cannot see anything in Streamlabs right now. Uh, what? Um. Okay. So I am moving it around. Um, but I don't see it on my end. That's weird. Apparently I did not control Z that. I'm working with delay here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Alright, now it's back. Jeez. Oh my goodness. Uh, anyways, just a small update. I just now noticed that I have not been active for 11 days. Yes, that is right, 11 days. So, I life happened and people gotta take a break sometimes. Now, did I intend to take a break? If I'm gonna be honest, no, I didn't. Um, so competitive Splatoon is happening. And also my give me a second. All right, so for some reason, I don't have the power cable to my Switch. So I'm just using random USB-C I have in my house somewhere. But it does mean that I am absolutely forced to use tabletop and instead of the dock because it will stop me from trying to use the dock using a third-party USB-C charger. That's how it is. I cannot say why that is the case. But anyways, I'm working with tabletop, not to mention I'm in competitive Splatoon. I also have my own life to worry about. Um but couple of good news today. Update 11 is coming out today. The 29th is for the Japan. It's today. Right now the servers are down. So, for Splatoon. As for Pokemon Unite, they fixed the crashes. The next major update, I think it's mid-February. I could be wrong about that. Um, but either way, it's still a positive. So, it right now it's all other than my life, it's all positives right now. So, there's not much I can say. Now, for Update 11, I should have made an update tomorrow about it, about what it is, in the patch notes. So, let's talk about it for a second. Hold on, I'm gonna go to my Google Chrome, and because that's what I use these days, we all know, y'all have seen it. And I'm going to look up the patch notes, cause it's out. Now, there's a Florora that will last for, it is actually known, excuse me, I think it's known, it's 30 seconds from what I am hearing. Um, so, and it goes run speed, swim speed, ink resistance, intensify. All great abilities. I do think that this is a healthy change for the game. It does mean that the term aura farming is catching on. I am very serious. You can watch Prochara. He used the aura farming a term, as well as like 1,000 other creators. I'm not the only one who's naming it. It caught him before like I'm putting it out here. So yeah. And also we now get health bars. Health bars is also an amazing change to the game. It does make approximating what health the enemy has much easier, especially for comms in competitive play. I don't think it'll change much in solo queue in terms of communication, but in terms of quality of games in solo queue and like X rank or series, I do think it'll go up by a little bit. It'll definitely help me, that's for sure. I can say that for sure. What I can't say is for everyone else. It'll help me, let's say, if it's at 90, and let's say, after a second later, I get another shot with Dread, and it doesn't kill, I will not be shocked to see why that they recovered health. They've also slightly decreased the collision size in swim form, but expanded it for kid form. I do think that this is a healthy change as well. And adjusting the size of the circle indicating explosion radius for Reslider and radius of the area that deals to 20 instead of to the radius inked. Though I am a slider player, I'm not sure what that entails, if I'm going to be completely honest. The stealth jump changes, it is a little bit of an indirect nerf to stealth jump, because it actually affects super jumping as a whole. So what it does is that depending on how far dynamically changes how long you're going to be super jumping. So if it's from like not necessarily halfway off the map, if it's like, let's say you're on brine water, you're at bottom left, and you just want to go to top, and you just want to go back to base, and you're very close to your base, but it's like way above you. That's just super jumping on that distance on the x-axis does not, since it's based on the x-axis, it does not change the time of the super jump. But if you're jumping if you're jumping literally across the map, it's going to be longer of time. So this is an indirect nerf to stealth jump, as the marker is technically gonna stay there for longer, but I do think that it'll be healthy for some weapons that absolutely spam those kind of sharking techniques. The weapons that I'm thinking of, I can't really think of any. Oh, yes, I actually can't think of one. Decavitator. That absolutely takes advantage of stealth jump. I do think that it is a healthy nerf for it. Now, the patch notes. This is the winner here. Dynamo's the winner out of this. And S-Blast is the only nerf on here. Reslider kinda counts. But it's also a buff. So, there you go. S-Blast, 11% for the explosive ratings for short range. I don't think it'll change anything at all. All it will do is just add a little bit more skill requirement. And such skill that literally everyone has. At least here in the competitive scene. So, I don't think it'll change much. What should have been an RNG nerf, but it is what it is. 11% is still a little bit, but will it change the meta enough to make S-Blast not viable? I don't think so. I think it'll still be a very staple weapon in for the frontline midline Slayer slot. I think that it's gonna stay there for a while. I think that this change will not affect it. If anything, it'll affect solo queue at best. But I don't think that it's gonna change its viability. The blast radius is kind of dumb on it, as it does kind of overlap with Luna, and this helps turn it down, which I do appreciate, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna lose viability. There's not much I can say a lot of this. Reduces the amount of time for ink recovery. That is a little by like 2 frames. That is a healthy change. I really appreciate, especially when I'm doing solo queue and I'm learning macros for Mint and I play roller for said macros. So I do appreciate it. H3. I'm not sure how much I can say on it. I don't play H3 nor L3, so reduces the time restricted after firing by 2 frames on Blaster. I don't play Blaster, so I cannot say for sure. Though it sounds like a healthy change. It does sound like a healthy change. So, Spratbrella. Thank you. This is like a halfway needed change. I do think that it was slightly. I do think the ink consumption does balance out how much paint it does, but I do think that it does a little bit too much perhaps. So and also it's rollers to solid flight, so a little bit more uptime is helpful, especially when it's especially when it reworked from 10 point, I think it was 10.1, I could be wrong about that, or either 10.1 or 9.3, I cannot remember, attempts to rework it into a support weapon instead of a Slayer. So I do appreciate it. Not that I'm a Umbrella player. Now, let's talk about the only change to the specials. Slider. Increases the radius explosion, but no changes to 70. Great. It is much better at skirmishing. I appreciate that. Skirmishing. Slaying. I do think that it'll help weapons on stuff like Tetras and Dapples, weapons that are Slayer focused instead of support focused like Dread. So I do think that is helpful. Zoe, thank you. that I do think this is a healthy change. The fact that we did nothing with 70 damage, I do think that is a great change. I do think that is a good thing to specify. I do think that the radius of the explosion is healthy. Slightly raise the center point of the explosion to make it harder for opponents using a small height difference. That has been a change that is needed for a long time. That has been an issue. So the way Slider works currently is that the place where explosion comes from the very bottom, not the center. So the fact that this is being raised is that this has been a change that has been required for a long time. I don't know why it took this long for it to be changed. It should have been a center to begin with. This is the change that's been needed. So great change. At least Slider will feel a lot less clunky when used. Do you think that it's gonna get more consistent value in those type of situations? Decreases radius inked by explosion by approximately 7%. This reduces the amount of zones cheese that's possible. Thank you. Healthy change. Decreases maximum distance of charge by approximately 19%. I have no clue what that's supposed to mean. So, I'm just gonna point it out. No clue what that means. So, if it's talking about the distance that it'll go, change not needed, really. I do think that the distance is healthy enough for it, but if it absolutely did need a nerf, I understand. Points for special. Okay, new Squiffer gets a buff. Zekel Fin, Scope and not Scope, buffed. Great. Trinuvo buffed. Another good cooler option. Love it. Sloshing Machine to get more consistent booyahs. That's great. Pro, I don't. I guess I can see it. I mean, people could. If people are trying to spam crabs on Pro, they should be playing Splash. But other than that, I can see this being a healthy change. It is a fine change. I'm okay with it. S-Blast, it does not do nearly enough paint to deserve the nerf, though. I do think the nerf goes too far. 210 is fine. I do think that 200p is healthy for it. 210's too much. I do think it's too much. It does not, despite the fact that it has like almost no weaknesses, it does not paint enough to justify 210p. Mini absolutely needed a nerf, so especially when there is, I don't know why this topic exists. It is a conversation that Stamp is too broken, so, and the issue is coming from Mini. So, I do appreciate that nerf. And then the rest of the changes is Splatnet 3. Changes to used weapon display under X rank is shown most frequently used weapon in Expos. For that mode during a certain period instead of the last used weapon. Due to this change, the weapon used to determine the top players for weapons will be changed the same way. I've not used Splatnet 3 for this, so yeah. And the rest of this is just notes on why they made it, why they made these changes. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through them. So, I'm going to read it out loud, paragraph by paragraph, and making my own comments. So, if you don't want to hear all this, now is the time to click off. This update focused on making changes to battle-related systems in multiplayer balance. We did know this from the beginning that you posted on X, Nintendo. For information about information, see the news article. I'm not gonna. Among the balance changes, the updates for L3 and Dynamo are not simple upgrades, while the performance changes help those weapons' unique properties stand out. That's what this changes do seem like. L3 is increased speed shots by 24% without changing the flight distance. Great change. Decreased radius of ink splatter at the point of impact by 50%. That's fair. So you're basically doing like a partial rework of the weapons. Dynamo is a great buff, so that's great. For L3, re-raise the speed of shots to make it easier to utilize the weapon's unique property. Its ability to maximize power by successfully hitting opponents with 3 shots. On the other hand, we lowered its inking ability to make it more difficult to fight by lying in wait without proactively approaching opponents or fighting in ways that rely on a rate of turnover for special weapons. That is completely fair. My thoughts on that is clearly Nintendo wants the game to be fighting focused. We need to be in team fights. We need to have very aggressive play styles. This is great. I do love that we're making changes to it. For Dynamo Roller, in order to make each of its swings even heavier and more powerful than before, we expanded an area of inking and the area that allows players to defeat opponents with one swing, and also increases the amount of ink consumed. Ink consumed, good nerf, I guess. The paint buff has been absolutely needed. So, now we have 2 more staple cooler options, and I heavily appreciate that. Especially when the current meta is literally just pen and zapping the coolers. So, good changes. Love it. As for the main weapons, we made changes in order to make them easier to use or to emphasize unique traits among the weapons with similar properties. I agree. For the Reef Slider special weapon, we improved its ability to defeat opponents by expanding its area of explosion capable of defeating opponents in one hit, as well as making it harder for the explosion using a small height difference. On the other hand, we reduced the maximum distance of the charge, increased the area, and decreased the area ink to make it harder to rely on strategy of taking black spot zones, using ink from the explosion by pointing toward the spot zone from a safe area, then charging. I explained that earlier. Very healthy change, and also very needed change. Because this update includes changes to multiplayer system that go beyond the simple multiplayer balance changes, we anticipate we have a bigger impact on gameplay than the average update. For that reason, the next update will be sooner than normal and focus on changes to multiplayer balance. Okay, so we get an idea of when it's gonna come. Likely a couple of months. Or in a month. So, really appreciate that Nintendo's being open about it, of when the update is gonna come. Now we got the bugs. The bugs. Fixes to player controls where the undercover umbrella canopy broke at the same time as the player switching equipment to their special weapon or the Rainmaker and defeating an opponent. Sometimes the umbrella would enter a state where the canopy recovered no matter how many times was broken. Fix an issue where a player is in an unstable wireless environment, perform a dually dodge roll from swimming on the wall. Sometimes the player who performed the dodge roll is the player on the other player's screens. For multiplayer, we fixed an issue when landing things like ink or bombs on certain positions. Sometimes the inking on the player screen would be drastically different than the other player screens. We fixed an issue in Makeup Mart in Clams mode where it was possible for players to linger on top of the goal. One of the Japanese content creators actually talked about it. Fixed an issue on Bluefin zones and clams, where it was possible to climb on top of a certain terrain using unintended methods. Fixed an issue on Urchin, of all things, where the electronic bulletin board in the center stage and the supporting pillars blocked things like Inkstorm and Teta missiles. Also on Urchin, we fixed certain walls were hit with great momentum, and the player would sometimes be treated as if they left the stage and were defeated. That's just the bugs that they fixed. Do think that the bugs were necessary, so I appreciate it. Where is the link? There it is. And as for people curious what the float aura state looks like, this is what it looks like. So, as soon as you get 3 kills, you get into a flow state aura. You get a small explosion from your person, your Inkling or Octoling or your kid form, and it paints under you. I don't think that explosion does damage. I think that's purely paint. I could be wrong, though. So, and I think this just shows that it's continuous. Also, from what I'm hearing, when you're in flow state aura, as soon as you get another kill, it resets, and it's a 30-second timer. I could be wrong on that still. Still could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure. But that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing to be true. And for the health bar, this is what it looks like. It's just a small bar that comes up over the player's head. Good change. So, that's really appreciated. And as for the hit detection, this is the way that's changed. So, I do think that we have some good changes here. That's as we can see, the this image might be bugged. This squid farm is obviously changed to be smaller. This image might be bugged. I think the Inkling is supposed to show bigger. I could be wrong, but so however, we know if it's too difficult to hit opponents. So it does seem like the hitbox changes are dependent on the weapon. That's what I'm seeing here. I could be wrong. And then for the stealth jump changes. Okay, so I was wrong about before. Only it's effective when you have stealth jump. It makes it dynamic. Good to know. So it's only when you have stealth jump. That's good to know. So I was wrong before. So it's a stealth jump change, not a general super jumping change. Though the time that it takes from when you press the button to the air, that time it hasn't changed. So at least we have that. So that's it for this stream. That's all I needed to talk about. I hope y'all have a good day. I will see y'all at the other time. Bye.